Hello and welcome to the Glendale Arts and Culture Commission meeting for July 20th, 2017. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioners Derhovanesian.
Here.
Sahakian.
Here.
Vidor.
Here.
Chairperson Oshigan.
Yes.
For the record, Commissioner Sharikian is absent. The agenda for the July 20th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on July 17th, 2017. Item 2, consent items. At 2A, approval of regular meeting minutes from June 15th, 2017.
Have any comments or additions? Or
I'll move the agenda.
And I second it.
can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioners Derhovanesian.
Yes?
Sahakian.
Yes.
Vidor.
I don't think I can approve the minutes. Is that what we're doing?
Just abstain.
I'll abstain.
Chairperson Oshigan.
Yes.
Item 3, introduction presentations. At 3A, Library Arts and Culture events presented by Chuck Wyke, Community Relations Manager.
Good afternoon, Chair Oshigan, Commissioners, staff. I'm going to present a number of upcoming events at our Library Arts and Culture departments. But first, I would like to bring up some of the other arts and culture events and programs that happen throughout our city in other departments. And today, I just took a look at our leisure guide that Community Services and Parks produces, just to see what sorts of items we might consider arts and culture. Certainly martial arts to some degree, but also dance camps of all kinds. There's arts camps, drawing, painting, tea ceremony classes. Of course, they use the brand facility downstairs from the library. They also use our Chevy Chase library in addition to their other park spaces. Interpretive hikes, river walk, Tai Chi, yoga, and a number of tours of important facilities in the city, including the Doctor's House, the Tea House, Friendship Garden, and the different adobes. So I'll try and bring you up to speed on some of our other departments as we move along, just to see what else is going on with arts and culture in our city departments. So for the library, here's a real cool picture that an artist named Edith Waddell painted in 2015. It was part of a Metro initiative to put art in Metro buses. So that very piece of art was on Metro buses all over LA back in 2015. It was great looking bus art, and of course it features Glendale and predominantly Brand Library right in the center. There's a shot of Mr. Brand, some signage, some interesting things. So a couple of people let me know that not only is it, well, it was on the Metro buses, but now it's down at Union Station. So just to the right below, that's the same article. So they've got a light shining behind it, and they've broken it up into 3 panels. It's really nice. So they're still using that art. Her comment at the time was, it's an impression of the city of Glendale that draws from Brand Parks, diverse cultural venues, including the Brand Library, the Doctor's House, El Miradero, the Japanese Tea Garden, and she intertwines these, tries to represent the city's rich ethnic fabric. So it still lives. If you get on the Gold Line down at Union Station, you'll see this. Janet Charles is finishing up her installation at the Adams Square Mini Park gas station. She will be there through the end of the month, July. The next day, literally, the next artist, Luke Elton Smith, is going to come in with his installation, install it on the 29th of July, and it should be up the following week. By the August 1st, it will last right up until the November holiday time when the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association takes over and does some holiday installations. Lisa C., tonight, really quite a noted author. She's going to be at our Downtown Central Library Auditorium tonight at 7 p.m. We're very happy to get her. She's a top-notch writer. And here's something that is coming to, again, the downtown Central Library. It's Discomfort Women. Do the right thing. It's about comfort women, and perhaps Chair Oshigan would like to share a little information about this.
Yes, I'd be very happy. This is our second exhibit then at the newly renovated, newly created Reflect space, gallery space in the downtown Central Library. And as you know, the first one was about Armenian genocide, and the whole mandate of the space is to deal with these kinds of difficult human rights, social justice, genocide kind of issues. So this exhibit is going to be about women who were taken by the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II and were made into sex slaves, not only from Korea, where a lot of them were Korean, but also from China and the Philippines. And we have a top curator from Korea here with a lot of different work from Korea that reflects on this work, like that one. There's some very classical work as well as some very much in the now kind of the youngest, newest generation reflecting on this issue. As well as we have a very interesting kind of document that we made it into an exhibit, which is the sort of the hand-drawn testimony of a survivor of the Discomfort Woman, who was silent for 50 years, and then when she was about 70 years old, she drew her experience. So we've kind of converted this book, this graphic novel, into an exhibit. And so I urge everyone to come down. The opening is tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday evening at 6. 6 to 9, please come and join us.
Great. And there's a number of events associated with this. The annual commemorative ceremony for Comfort Woman Day is the following week on Friday, July 28th, again at the downtown Central Library. That'll be in the auditorium at 6 o'clock. And there is a film screening of a very important documentary called The Apology about comfort women. That's screening at the downtown Central Library auditorium on Friday, August 11th at 7 p.m. Other films that are coming to the downtown Central Library, Jewel City Noir is a film series. The Museum of Neon Art and the Friends of the Library have put that on. They've got 6 or 7 monthly noir films. And Saturday, August 19th, will be Mildred Pierce. Very popular. We're getting a lot of activity on these films. They're very, very popular. Our Brand Library, they just opened their last show. I saw it last week. When Line Becomes Form, real interesting. These sort of drawings, and there's some large-scale sculpture up there. So that's very interesting. That's actually runs through the beginning of September. The Brand Plaza series. I might mention when this started in 2014. It's when the Brand Library reopened to the public after a very lengthy and extensive historic renovation. And one of the leaders for us was our senior librarian up there, Kathy Billings. Kathy recently took a position with the city of South Pasadena, but I think her legacy lives on through the Brand Plaza series and other events. So this Plaza series is one you're familiar with. You fund it. This Friday, Makoto Taiko. So if you can take an hour and a half of big taiko drums, interspersed with some koto and flutes and things, I guarantee you it'll be something you've never seen, especially not at Brand Library. We expect to wake everybody up at that park. But there's a number of great events coming up, and they run through the end of August. 222 East, another commission-sponsored program. It's our outdoor performances at the Central Library. Outside, right, there's a little patch of grass off to the side, and you can sit there on the grass and hear a number of great bands. We had a good jazz band last week. This week, it's kind of an Americana band, Ike's Creek. We've got jazz. We've got the last one there, August 19th. That's a 7-piece a cappella jazz group. Seven singers just wailing away by themselves. Really fun program. It's 2 o'clock on Saturdays at the Central Library. Our hours, if you're interested, are Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10, Friday, Saturday, 9 to 6, and Sundays, 12 to 6. And I worked last Sunday, busy as anything. The place was full. Obviously, it's kind of humid outside, but the place was full. It's like that every day. So we're really, really happy with the activity we've got here. I should also mention that our Grandview Library, we finished the renovation. It's back open, so we are firing on all full cylinders right now.
Excellent. Thank you,
Welcome.
Chuck. Any comments? Or?
It's fascinating. Good to know that so much is happening in City of Glendale.
Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications. There's none.
Next item, please, yes.
Item 5, business agenda at 5A1, discussion item, public art master plan activities status. Barbara Goldstein, Cars Goldstein.
In summary, in November of 2015, the City Council approved the 2015-17 work plan of the Arts and Culture Commission and appropriated $380,000 to accomplish activities detailed in the work plan. So this report is an update of the Public Art Master Plan project from the work plan, which has had quite a bit of recent activity. On February 9th, 2016, the Arts and Culture Commission issued a request for proposals to complete a citywide plan for the responsible and effective deployment of the Urban Art Fund. The Urban Art Fund, now totaling close to $6 million, is a result of developer fees assessed for public art. A flurry of new development over the past few years has contributed greatly to the fund, and the Public Art Master Plan should provide expert counsel on the most impactful, fiscally responsible, effective, and sustainable ways in which the Urban Art Fund can be utilized for public art to enhance the city of Glendale. After a thorough vetting process, the Arts and Culture Commission recommended Cars Goldstein and Associates to the City Council with an expanded budget of $125,000. The City Council moved to approve the selection and budget on December 6, 2016. So we have today with us Barbara Goldstein, one of the leaders of your Public Art Master Plan, who's going to speak to her activities the last couple of months.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the time. I've sent in a report that you have in your packet, and I trust that you've had a chance to read it. So I will reiterate some of the things and also give you an update on what has happened since then. First of all, it's great that the Urban Arts Fund has collected $6 million, almost $6 million, and I'm trying to look at the potential for that from a very high level, based on my experience working in other places and what has been done there. And my overarching recommendation is that you think about what is the most impactful way for you to use the funds that you have. Daniel Burnham, when he designed the World's Fair in Chicago, was famous for saying, "Make no small plans." And I recommend that that is what you do, that you make no small plans. So I gave you a list in my report of the city people that I've met with to date, and I just wanted to give you a little update on that. In addition to the city directors that I met with when I wrote the report, since then I've met with Michael Garcia and Michael Grant in the city attorney's office. I've met with the urban design team headed up by the acting head of the planning department, Eric Krause, along with Jay Platt and Chris Adgari. They are in charge of the city's urban design plans. I've met with Shannon Curry Holmes at Brand Library. And I will be meeting with each of you individually, as well as each of the city council members during my next trip in August. We're also planning to create an advisory group, and that group has been invited. It's a cross-section of people that represent different institutions in Glendale, and the role of that advisory committee is to meet 3 times. The first time is we will give them an overview of public art and the Urban Art Fund and ask them who else we should be meeting with in focus group meetings. The second meeting, we'll give them an overview of our emerging themes. And the third meeting, we will give them a draft of the plan. We will be doing the same thing concurrently with this commission, and commissioners will be represented on that advisory committee. Also next month, we will be meeting with a business owners group and with an artist focus group. And yesterday, we also participated in the business owners group, I don't know how to describe it, a workshop that took place at the library, and we talked a little bit about the public art master plan. So just going into a little bit about some of the key things that I've learned in having the various meetings that I've had. The number one issue that the Urban Arts Fund has is that there's a desperate need for staffing. And I did ask the city attorney if the Urban Arts Fund could be used for managing the Urban Arts, a staff position to manage the Urban Art Fund, and he said yes, that fees that are collected by the city can be used to staff those programs so that the fees are properly expended. And I think that that's a position that you definitely need to have, because if you're going to have art integrated into new development, or if you're going to use the Urban Art Fund in a way that is responsible and impactful, it's important to have staffing to help you with that. What I think is very important also is to think about how the Urban Art Fund will be dispersed. $6 million sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but it can't go for everything. The city has a lot of arts needs, as you know, and if we're thinking about the Urban Arts Fund as something that is there to actually help to create place, to help to reinforce urban design, we need to think about what does that mean. It can mean looking at the city's urban design plans and developing artwork that helps to reinforce those plans, whether it's gateway elements or streetscape elements or art in parks. It can also mean funding events that help to reinforce urban places in Glendale. If you start looking at it as the be-all and end-all for arts funding that's needed in Glendale, it won't go very far. And it's clear, as I talk to people, that there are a lot of needs for art support in Glendale. Things that have to do with programming, performing arts, and this $6 million won't be able to do all of that. So one of the things we'll be looking at is recommending to the city that it find additional funding for the arts. Another thing that I found was that there was universal support among city departments to also put a % for art on the city's own construction projects. I think we mentioned earlier when we talked with you that most cities actually start with a % for art on their own capital construction projects. Although Glendale has actually placed art in connection with some of its own buildings, there's no formal policy. And creating a framework that says anytime the city builds something, it should set aside money for art to be integrated into that would be a very wise idea, and it seems to have universal support from the department heads. So some of the things that I've been thinking about is that it would be very helpful to have some educational workshops for city leadership. And what I'd really like to do with this group is actually have a kind of boot camp about public art, where perhaps we invite your commission and perhaps representatives from some of the other commissions and some of the departments to learn little bit about public art, how it's done in other places, what kinds of procedures and mechanisms will help to make the program strong and outstanding. Likewise, I'd like to be able to do a work session with the City Council so they can learn a little bit more about public art and what the possibilities for that are. And then it would open up a conversation about the different funding sources that are available for the arts. So that's kind of a summary of where I am with the kind of research that's been done. I did identify a number of specific physical opportunities where it would be appropriate to start thinking about developing public art. And I think that as all the different meetings occur and the workshops, more will come forward. It's awfully important to really think about where the city is developing and how physical artwork can assist with that, and how we can encourage developers to make their own projects better by integrating art into those. So I'm happy to answer any questions or elaborate on anything that's in the report.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, and so if we have any comments, commissioners, I'm sure we have quite a few. Please, Sean.
So thank you first
You're very welcome.
the entire team for all the work you've already put in. I had a question related to the advisory committee, and I see that you're just getting started, so it's very city heavy in terms of the meetings. But where do all the cultural groups, nonprofit groups, neighborhood associations, where do they fit in terms of feedback? And
I'm really glad that you asked that. We put together a kind of a framework for the kinds of people that we think should be on the advisory committee that would represent different sectors of the city, ranging from the school district to historic preservation people to business owners to people from different cultural groups. We will also be doing one of our focus groups with the neighborhood associations, and we'll do a focus group with artists and also with arts organizations. But the advisory committee is meant to be a kind of representative for all of those groups, and there will be some arts commissioners on that as well. Okay. We really have to touch on everything to get the whole picture.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then lastly, just in terms of staffing, and maybe it's a question to our staff, is that a process we need to start in the commission? Does that start in council? Do we table it or put on the agenda in an upcoming meeting?
I think that we will wait until the findings of the report come out before we move forward with that, because I think they'll give us specific recommendations as to what qualifications we would require for that position.
But it's nice to know that you have a funding source for it.
Sure. So that's more of
it doesn't have to come out of general fund. Yeah.
That's more so when we get into implementation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of the things that's really challenging about developing a plan is you don't want to just develop a plan and see it end up on a shelf, right? You want to develop a plan that has some potential for implementation, and that's going to be a key element of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was fantastic, nicely detailed explanation. I hope that it would be before the implementation and there would be a part of a final decision that it would come to the commission.
Absolutely. It has to come to the commission before it goes to City Council.
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We are in the safe hands, and we are very excited to see what would be the outcome.
Thank you.
We have waited for this for quite a while.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you like?
I have a few things that I wrote down. Some are
Good.
questions and some are comments.
Yes.
So can I just quickly go through
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the interviews, I had the same concern you had and thought of, people like the Historical Society and even maybe like Catherine Engel in transportation as somebody who you might want to speak with maybe in a one-on-one interview, because she's had a lot of interaction with the music community on doing musical events in public places.
Thank you.
And then let's see, question in number 4. I think I need to get your document out here. Glendale Arts Commission. Were you referring to Glendale Arts, the organization there, or
It
the
should have
Arts
said Glendale Arts and Culture Commission. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to
That's
make
my
sure we
mistake.
weren't talking about Glendale Arts.
No,
there.
it's interesting
Okay,
because
no problem.
I work with so many different cities, and
There's
everybody
a lot of
calls their
names.
commission something different.
Yeah, I hear you. On the challenges, on bullet point 1, I guess I was wondering if within the Arts and Culture Department, the functions, after we get to the point of talking about staffing, if the department could actually look at it as a cultural sub-department. And even to the point you made, Chuck, when you were going through all the different events that are happening all over the city, and there's so many arts and culture-related events being sponsored or run by other departments, is there some way to brand all the activities and all the people in the city who may or may not be involved? It's not to say that you're going to appropriate the staff from other departments and bring them into this department, but is there some way to make it more cohesive so that it identifies as a cultural entity within the city?
Well, what you're speaking to is something that we've talked about quite a bit as a team. The city, as you know, because you gave me a copy of the earlier cultural plan, was done in 1999, and then there was another cultural plan that was done in 2013. Neither of them really articulated a funding source for arts and culture. This is really meant to be a plan for public art. The city definitely needs to take its cultural plan further, create funding for arts and culture, and figure out how it wants to tie all of those pieces together and where. So, and staffing obviously would be a part of it, even if it's bringing together staffing that is existing in library, arts, and culture just as a working group, to be thinking about how all those things tie together, like Chuck was talking about. Right now, what I'm addressing is basically how do you make the public art piece of that work? And since the public art piece is in charge of the Urban Arts Fund and working with developers, there's a desperate need to have professional staff to make it work.
This is just a point of clarity on
Sure.
bullet point number 2. Are you referring to the Design Review Board here?
Design Review Board,
the Glendale
yes.
Design Review Board,
Again,
okay.
yeah, sorry.
I'd be interested to know, and I'm new for those who are in the audience out there in TV land. My name's Arlene Vidor. I'm a new person on the commission. I don't really know what's been discussed before, but I'd be interested to know, just for perspective, how some of these projects were approved and funded.
Well,
the thing outside the police station and other public art projects.
Right. Well, it's interesting because Michael mentioned to me when I met with the city attorney that there have only been 3 on-site private development projects that he remembers coming through, and the wording in the guidelines and ordinances is somewhat vague. It basically says that the Arts and Culture Commission reviews things before they go to the Design Review Board, but it says Arts and Culture Commission or some other body that the City Council might appoint. And there's no procedural framework for the review, which is usually something that would be included in a plan. So that's something that I'll absolutely address. And the thing is, if there's a desire to see more of those things happen, there's a need to develop a set of procedures to help them happen. Because when I talked yesterday to planning department staff, they don't really have a way to kind of communicate the benefits of doing that kind of work to developers. They basically say, these are your choices. You can spend 2% on site. Here's a link. Or you can put 1% into the in lieu fee. And if they're thinking just in terms of money, they're going to put the money into the fund. But if they understand that this is something that can enhance the value of their property, make it more interesting, make it more of a place, distinguish it, and that it's part of their construction cost that's there forever, they might be more inclined to do that.
I was a member a long time ago of the Downtown Specific Plan Advisory Committee, and then also the Historic Districting Advisory Committee, and I realized through that experience that when something's a plan and it's codified as a plan, it doesn't always have immortality.
That's right.
And I've had this since 1999. This is the Glendale Arts Strategy Task Force Strategic Plan for the Arts in Glendale, and it's really old, and it was done, I think, during the term of Sheldon Baker. And I was wondering just how you saw, for instance, in the Historic District Advisory Committee, it was clear from the beginning that what was decided was going to be codified in the municipal code as part of that part of the ordinance. But how does all of this get immortalized ultimately? How do you see that happening?
I don't recommend that ordinances have procedures in them, but I do recommend that ordinances refer to a set of administrative guidelines that are updated. And the ordinance does, the guidelines are just not, they need to be more detailed. Then there can be the guidelines that are detailed, and then there can also be a set of procedures that the Arts and Culture Commission follows for things like review of on-site projects. You know, you have a gifts policy, but there are other things like deaccessioning of artwork, those kinds of things. It's good to have procedures so that you are doing things in a fair and ethical way.
But in terms of the role of the commission in being maybe not only a steward, but say functioning as the gatekeeper of what type of public art gets approved, that would be something.
That would be desirable.
Yes, it would. But that would be codified in the municipal.
Right. I mean, the interesting thing is that with the projects that have been done on city property that were done without a formal percent for art, it's a little bit random what ends up being there. And I know that there's a park that's come forward that is going to set aside money for art, and they've created pedestals for art, and they are expecting the Arts and Culture Commission is going to help them with that. You need a framework for doing that. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the need to maintain the work once it's there.
Yeah. And then this is a very getting into the weeds thing, but I just thought I'd mention it in that the city's website doesn't seem to be structured to have a portal that's specific for visitors, tourists, and people who are interested in the arts, not just as an insider. Like, you know, we all here on this dais know where to look probably. Sometimes not, because you have to drill deeply down, but you know, major institutions like, you know, the library, the brand gallery, for instance, and other things, there's no one place you go where you get a picture of cultural affairs. So would that be one of the things that could
It's really a little bit outside of our charge, but it's certainly something that the Arts and Culture Commission can recommend.
Okay.
And I think it's a very good idea.
Okay. And then you had mentioned the community partnerships, and, you know, for instance, I know the Brand Libraries Support Group, the Brand Associates, had a wonderful experience partnering with the Arts and Culture Department to find a pop-up storefront space for some work that we display and sell to benefit the library, which is great. But at one time we had tried to get some of this artwork out and around town, including even at some of the government facilities, and that would be something that, you know, some way to facilitate that might also make art more public and be in more public places. So the partnership being with the city itself. Okay. So that was it. And I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
No worries. You're supposed to take up time.
Okay. Well, I need to reiterate on one of the issues. The idea that it would be great that we would have the internet as a means that people from outside or elsewhere, when they want to visit the city, they would know ahead of time. The way we do when we travel all over the world, we know what's happening during the time and the week. I wish, and I think it is in progress, but I'm not too sure where we stand on that. And on the idea of 1% or 2% and the design board. Previously, my suggestion was that it is, if they come to us only and they discuss about a design, that's great. We can give them our suggestions, but it would have been ideal if we would meet together. That means when they come to us, it would be design, because there are things that are beautiful, but they are not tangible as far as design board goes, and there are things that design board might be too kind of strict and too rigid about things. So, but that has not yet been in place, but we are in progress, and we have achieved so much, and hopefully in the next plan we could achieve some of those.
Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah. Does anybody from the Arts and Culture Commission sit on the Design Review Board?
No. Before, they had invited us on certain occasions to sit when a decision was going to be made, but it has been many years ago, not recently.
Okay, that's helpful, yeah. Okay.
I have a couple of ideas and questions. So first of all, staff, 1,000%. We cannot be without staff. I mean, there's no question about that, definitely. couple of ideas. Clearly, you inform the whole work by knowing many other cities that you've done master plans for and other kinds of projects for. You are planning, but right now it seems that a lot of the people involved are Glendale and seems very Glendale specific. I think it's kind of important probably to include other cities, other experiences of nearby cities, being Pasadena or West Hollywood, who've gone through a similar thing.
Right.
And you probably have that on your plans.
We'll benchmark those, yeah.
If we have an advisory board, maybe we need to have, or advisory committee, have other people nearby who know Glendale, who've been through Glendale, who have public art plans in the Southern California. I think that's really important. Yes, $6 million is not much, and perhaps, I don't know if this is possible, but the idea that with that $6 million to create the infrastructure to maintain the public art plan.
Absolutely, that has to be part of that.
That has to be part of it, right? Or else then we're just going to finish it and we'd be done.
Yeah.
The last point is, and this is something that I think you could think about, this has been an issue with me since the beginning of being on this commission, is our jurisdiction.
Yes.
And I think you touched on that, right? You know, we may have this fantastic plan that's got this tremendous idea, not small, very large, 20 years in the future, and then somebody will come along and put some kind of art in the street.
Right.
And then it kind of goes counter to this whole idea that we're developing.
Yeah.
So clearly, I would like to definitely have you think about that and make recommendations how we can bridge this jurisdiction issue with the city, with other departments, and somehow centralize the actual deployment of public art in the city. I think that's like the critical part of our success.
I think that the role of the Arts and Culture Commission needs to be much further defined relative to other city commissions and city departments and any art that goes onto public property. Those are things that just aren't really fully explained or detailed yet. And that'll be part of what I look at is benchmarking how arts and culture commissions work in other places.
Beautiful, thank you. Any more comments? Yes, Sean.
While you're up there, I'll add one last one. So at previous meetings, I don't recall how long ago it was, but one of the ideas that was initially brought up and discussed, just very briefly, was using our Glendale Water Power bills as a way of communications and letting people know what we're doing. I think it's something that, we as a commission, there's a ton of departments here that would love to do that, I'm sure. And I don't think every month we can send all of our events and updates. And you guys are doing very high quality, pop-ups like the Ciclavia to get high quality feedback, but as a general awareness tool for both your project specifically and also us as a commission in general. If in your meetings and staff, if that's something you can explore as a one-time, just a way to build general awareness.
That's a great idea. I love that idea because everybody gets a water and power bill.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Good. Anything else?
Just, if I could have my wish list, I would, and in our private, when we get one-to-one, we can discuss that. Art is great. I am an artist myself. I believe I am, anyhow. The thing is that, besides the enlightenment and entertainment purposes of the art for the Glendalians, I would like to make sure that whatever we plan would bring in other people to our city, because it would be a form of investment and as far as a kind of a working hands in hand with the economy of the city. I noticed that Glendale, for some reason, people do not come and visit very often. Our restaurants, our movie theaters, etc., is not the center for people to be here. Glendale Arts and Alex Theater somewhat attracts, and I like that because on the classical station I hear that, people talk about events happening in Glendale. I wish whatever we plan would be something that would entice people from all over and maybe even from other countries to come.
So create
over.
a destination.
To be a destination, because that way I know that Glendalians, we do not spend that much money and time within our own city. I would like to see that happen as far as businesses, as far as art, as far as fashion, as far as lots of things that could be offered here. With all the diversity we have in the city of Glendale, it could be a great place for other people to visit. If there is such a thing, if you can have that magic, I would like you to use that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Great.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Barbara.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. Next item?
Item 5B1, action item. Motion to postpone recommendation to City Council that City Council oppose proposed federal funding cuts to National Endowment for the Arts.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This report, as was stated, is a recommendation to postpone bringing to City Council a recommendation that they oppose the elimination of federal funding of the NEA, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. As you may recall, I'm sure you recall, at the last meeting, you recommended that the City Council oppose the elimination of the federal funding. In the meantime, we have gotten updates from a variety of sources. That the first one being that on July 12, 2017, the U.S. House Interior Appropriations Committee advanced a bill to provide $145 million in funding to the NEA for fiscal year 2018. Although this is a $5 million cut from current levels, the proposal counters the administration's proposed budget, terminating all funding to the NEA. The other thing that is quite prominently discussed in all the articles that I've read is that there is very broad bipartisan support for the $145 million. So at this point, we were recommending postponing bringing this item to the council because we didn't want to bring it as we're recommending that they not eliminate it because there's very little likelihood that it will be eliminated. So at this point, you would have the choice for us to continue to move forward, but change the wording, or in light of this very optimistic news, not go with the recommendation.
Well, I would like to thank staff and Cindy for looking more into it, because this is very proper, and I do believe it's a great idea either to postpone or not even to suggest, because basically if things are within what it needs to be done, an opposing or whatever would not even make sense. So thanks for being on top of it and informing the Commission to retract if possible. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to keep this discussion
can
short
we do
because
motion?
we already talked a lot about this. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
John.
I mean, I'll keep it short. I think the precursor for all this was that it was we're not debating dollars and cents, that we don't agree with how much it's being cut, but it was an elimination which we felt was very different. It was going to have direct and indirect impacts on Glendale and arts organizations overall. But given the positive news, I'm happy to postpone the recommendation. Hopefully, we won't need to bring it back up. And hopefully the budget will continue to support the arts.
That's agreed.
Mm-hmm. Anybody?
Yeah. Thank you for monitoring it. And it seems like we should continue monitoring the federal government on what they do or don't do with the arts in case we have to act.
So let's the motion. We need to have actual motion made. Yes, by one of the commissioners, or accept this motion.
I'll make
yes.
a motion to postpone bringing City Council the recommendation.
And I second it.
Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioners Derhovanesian.
Yes.
Sahakian.
Yes.
Vidor.
Yes.
Chairperson Oshigan.
Yes.
Item
Next item, please. Yes.
Item 5C1, informational item. Updates, Adams Square Gas Station Citywide Master Pedestrian Plan.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Oshigan and Commissioners, city staff. I'll give you two reports. The first report on literally the roof of the Adams Square Mini Park gas station. This involves your work, because in December 2014, the Commission approved the temporary art display in Community Services and Parks Adams Square Mini Park gas station policy, a temporary art display agreement, and sent out a call for artists and a proposal form. In February 2015, artists, art organizations, and local schools were invited to submit proposals to temporarily display art in the gas station 3 to 4 times during the year. A selection committee met in early March 2015 and selected 4 artists. A selection committee comprised of Commissioners Deaver and Oshigan and Library Arts and Culture staff met again in early 2016 and selected 4 more artists. I'm happy to tell you that the roof of the gas station was leaking. I'm not happy to tell you that, but it's been repaired. With a lot of work, staff contacted Public Works, Community Services and Parks, and they began this project. The work was completed the last week in June. Again, city staff from Community Services and Parks, Public Works, and Glendale Water and Power all played key roles in this repair. And I must say, they also worked very closely with artist Jana Charles to make sure that her art was not in any way compromised. There was a lot of water blasting, cleaning of the gas station. I'm very happy to say it's got a new roof. It's not going to leak. We can move forward. We're very happy. All right. And the second informational item concerns Community Development Department's Citywide Master Pedestrian Plan. CDD, as I can call them, is considering the installation of temporary painted decorative crosswalks as part of its Citywide Master Pedestrian Plan. And one possible location is up on Brandon Broadway. The crosswalks would be painted in late September, early October, in order to coincide with the first anniversary of the city's Be Street Smart Glendale campaign and a series of Walktober events, including International Walk to School Day on October 4th. CDD staff is happy to present an informational update to the Commission at the next meeting. I met with them, and they're literally looking at a two-day turnaround. That's how long the crosswalks will stand, with the painted crosswalks. They want to do 2 at Brandon Broadway. They're going to use a spray chalk. It is very temporary, 2 days. After 2 days, it's going to be beat. After all the cars that run through there. So they're going to install it. It'll last the weekend. They'll have their major event. And then the city will come through and clean up what's left of the chalk out there. So that's an update because it informs you a little bit of what another city department is doing for the arts. And also we hope in some way it'll give us a structure if we ever want to move forward with crosswalk painting, that there will be a process already in place. We don't have to invent it. And so again, CDD staff will come at the August 17th meeting if you'd like.
Thank you, Chuck. And I would very much like that if they would if they would like to, I would like them to have come here to talk to them. This is the perfect case of this issue of the jurisdiction. That perhaps jurisdiction is not the correct word, but how are we connected with the arts that are being created by other departments in the city? So now they're doing it. If they had spoken to us like a month ago, right? We have done all this research. Sharon did all this research on how to do a sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
And so we could have shared that information, and we could have maybe had a plan together, right? So
I will say that when Sharon was here, she did share that information with them. So there was some coordination. I mean, this all happened after the last commission meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. So we were not informed of that. Yeah, so maybe we should be more informed of what's going on as well. But creating these bridges with other departments that are creating art in the city I think it's critical. But thank you for the report. Any questions, comments?
Not on that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when people do, I realize this is extremely temporary and it almost sounds like, a passing thing that's a non-issue, but when somebody does do something in the public domain that's artistic, does it not come here for a consult? And, any recommendations that the commission might have goes back to them?
I think that goes to Chair Oshagan's comment about jurisdiction.
Right. Yes.
There are some areas that
issue.
do not come to the commission, one being the gateways into the city. That was one example. The other one was some of the, I guess you could classify it as artwork on Brand Boulevard.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So
Public
those
art.
kinds of things, are not brought. And I think that's something that we really want to address in the master plan. And your point about jurisdiction is very well taken.
Sounds great. Okay.
Okay.
Are we to the comments or what?
Next item. What's the next
Next item,
comment?
item 6, commission staff comments.
If I'd like to lead off with a comment, then I can
Okay.
hand off to you if you'd like to. I would like to. This probably should have been done earlier in the meeting, but I'd like to invite Arlene Fedor as commissioner among us. I have known Arlene for a number of years, and we've worked together on different projects. And she is a very, as you can see from her presence and her involvement, she's very engaged in many different realms of the city for many, many years, many more years than I have been involved, back to 1999. And I like to
keep everything too.
keep everything. Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of keep everything, but that's it. And I like to read a short biography of Arlene so that we are better acquainted with her. Arlene was on the Glendale Historical Preservation Commission for 8 years, serving as chair 3 times. She was president of the Glendale Historical Society for 6 years and has been involved with the Brand Association for 15 years. She is the webmaster for the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association and serves on their arts committee. Arlene is also directly involved in the arts. She has an advanced teaching credentials from Glendale Community College and taught dance for 3 years. She is currently playing with the Glendale-based Cantabile. I was going to say Cantabile, but maybe
I just found that out myself.
chamber players, and is also an award-winning photographer. So, Arlene, welcome to our commission, and we hope to transform Glendale together.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I am very excited about the possibility of us, through the Public Arts Master Plan implementation, engaging the community so that when we come to the meetings, there's a really big audience and everybody wants to get involved. You're all looking at me like I'm little nuts. Please don't.
Well, we're all a little bit nuts here, yeah, but
Of course.
okay. Thank you. Any other?
Oh, I was going to say the same thing, but
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, when is the time? I thought
Yeah,
at the
I
beginning.
think that was. I should have done it at the very beginning,
everybody
but
here wanted to introduce. Everybody knows Arlene anyhow in our community and city and etc. Well done,
No.
well expressed, and again, years we have worked together, so
Yeah,
I know her close and.
Glad that you did, because I don't think that's true. I am new here, and I have a lot to catch up with. So, hope to be talking with all of you, one-on-one.
Absolutely.
No violations of the Brown Act.
So thanks for joining us. Thank you.
And thank you to Councilmember Agajanian for appointing me. I appreciate his confidence in me.
yes, Sean.
Well, first, I want to thank Terry Deaver, Commissioner Deaver, who I wish we had a chance to give a formal goodbye to, but she's a friend, so I'll have a chance to thank her for her service in person as well. But when I was a new commissioner, she really was very helpful in teaching me the ropes, and she's been a great advisor ever since. So I want to thank Terry for the standard that she set for commissioners, and of course, welcome Arlene. I think Terry will be sorely missed, but we have a great replacement here in Arlene, and she's no stranger to all of us. And I think she mentioned it when she first came in the meeting. It's a good sign when you're not shaking hands, but you're hugging people as you walk in. So we know her really well, and very much looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ditto. Same here.
Actually, on that, I should say that Terry Deaver was very happy and excited to know that Arlene is going to take over. She thought that would be a great decision. So I think she likes the idea and she blesses the decision made.
Yeah, and I have the deepest respect for Terry. I wish, is there some way to summon her back for the next meeting to, heap some praise on her, because, it's a hard act to follow. Terry, I may be an enthusiast, but Terry is a very, very knowledgeable person with a great depth of knowledge about the arts and how to administer arts programs, and I'm still planning to pick her brain as well as all of yours as I get familiar.
what could be said about Terry is that not only she was knowledgeable, but she was kind enough to understand the circumstances. She knew how to approach situations. She was not aggressive, but very adamant about issues. But she did it in a very nice manner, and she handled the colleagues at the time that there were contradiction of ideas. She was very well spoken, and she was doing it in a very nice manner. So it was a pleasure working all those years with her.
Any other commission staff comments? Next item?
Item 7, written communications. There's none.
None. This meeting is adjourned.
Sure.